Hey guys, it's Jack Punkington here, and bonus video for the week. I've got something going on, and it gave me an idea for a video. And I need to talk about this. So I am working on trying to get into a band. I have been for a few years, obviously, and I'm in a situation where I'm talking to a few different bands, and it really got me thinking on expectations bands should have of me and expectations I should have of bands. So I thought I'd make a video on this. And yeah, I've got a little list here of just thoughts I had. You know, this is just a fun little thing I think that could help someone who's getting ready to audition and maybe has never been in a band before and what they should be expected to do and what they should expect to go into. So this is not indicative to any band I've ever been in or any band I've tried out for. These are just my thoughts and what I hold as expectations. So I've, like I said, I've got a list here. So when you're trying out for a band and you're in communication with them, you know, if they do covers, ask them what kind of covers, you know, what covers maybe, like they send you a list of 5 and you pick out 2 or 3 that you could probably learn in like a week or two. Get that down, and yeah, that way you have something that you can be confident and be like, I can find the material. You know, if they do a different version, maybe reach out to them and ask, hey, do you guys have a certain tab that you use for this so I can know what to go off of? Just that's something that I think is very helpful. If they do have originals, maybe try learning one. You know, reach out to the band and say, hey, do you have tabs for this that I could try to pick along to? Or even if you try to learn by ear, that'd be cool. And be able to improvise. You know, you don't have to be perfect, but if you can kind of jam with a band, that's one of the funnest ways to get to know a person's ability. Is you just go in, and maybe you've done a couple, like you've gone through a couple covers, so you have a rough idea. You're like, well, let's just do a jam, and then the drummer just starts out with like a beat that they like, and a guitar player comes in or the bass, and then you can kind of like look at the bass player and see what they're playing, and kind of go off of the chords of that, and then just add like your own flair to it, you know. Uh, so yeah. Be open for communication. Be able to respond quickly. Me personally, I try to respond as quickly as possible. Obviously, we all have our own lives, but be able to be like, you know, you get an email, you know, or if you're texting someone and they're asking you questions, be able to respond fast. Be honest. Don't lie. You know, don't be like, well, I can do this, this, and this, and I have this super expensive piece of equipment. Honestly, when it comes down to it, your gear matters, but it doesn't matter as much as you think you do, as it does. If you're going out to an audition, it doesn't matter if you have a $10,000 setup or a $400 setup, because as long as you know the stuff or you know what you're doing, that's what matters. I could walk in and not know a single song and have a super nice half stack with a super expensive guitar, and I'm not going to get it because I have super nice gear, but I don't know what the heck I'm playing. So, on the mention of gear, make sure your gear is in good working order. Don't show up to an audition where you have a guitar or a bass that the pickup is out. One of the pickups is out, and you know you have it jimmy rigged and it only works half the time. Have your gear working. It doesn't have to be super expensive, like I said, but have it working. Have your amp work. Don't just be like, well, if I just jimmy this cable and just like shake it a little bit, it'll work. Be able to like have a good piece of equipment. Like I said, it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be working and playable. And make sure like you bring backups of stuff. Like you want backup cables, you want backup strings. A backup guitar is nice because if you have a situation where you're playing in a different tuning for one song, you can leave that guitar for that tuning and have the other guitar be in that tuning. Or if you have a guitar that's got a certain bridge, just thoughts on that. I genuinely try to go with two guitars or a guitar. Like, I have had situations where I have had a piece of equipment. Like, I've only had one working guitar. So I make sure it's the guitar that I can change the tuning on very easily and not have to undo everything. And I always try to bring a backup amp. You don't have to, but I enjoy having spares because I have been at an audition where my amp has gone out and I had to use the backup, and it works just fine. Like I said, your gear's not what's on. Your gear's not what's being auditioned. You are, so know your parts. Be clean, and what I mean by that is have a good clean outfit. Don't show up sloppy. You want to kind of treat it like a job interview a little bit. Be professional, but also, you don't have to be in a suit and tie, but, a nice clean shirt, maybe a nice overshirt, and clean pants. You don't want to go with, like, big spots of whatever on your shirt and stuff. You wouldn't go to a job interview like that. You shouldn't go to a band audition like that. Be sober. Be sober. Like, there's a time and a place for everything. Be sober for your audition. Have an understanding of what the band's tolerance is on stuff like having a beer or having drinks or whatever. Like I said, after practice, that's fine. You come into audition or practice, you should be sober. You should be ready to play. You shouldn't need to, I'm going to go out and go get drunk before I audition. It's not cool, and it doesn't help. I understand being nervous and stuff, but you should be sober for a job interview. You should be sober for an audition. Show up early because you've got to move your gear in there. Practice starts at 7. That doesn't mean show up at 7. Practice starts at 7. That means show up at like 6:50 so you can get your gear in and hooked up and everything. Because you don't want to take a tube amp out of the cold car, throw it into the garage, turn it on, and blow all your tubes. You want to make sure there's time for that stuff to warm up. Because now you're out of tubes. And guess what? We're in a tube shortage right now. But seriously, though. Show up early. I can't stress that enough. When you're playing the stuff, like you've got a cover, you don't have to play it note for note. Add your personality. You're not a robot, Add your personality to it. Don't have an ego about it. You're not... I don't want to work with someone who's got an ego and thinks they're the best of the best. I don't care. You can be a half-decent guitar player and be super humble. I'll work with you all day long. But if you're the best guitar player ever and you know it and you're going to be like, you can leave. I don't need that attitude here. I'll work with someone who may not get stuff as fast as you and they're super humble about it. Guess what? I'd rather work with them. That's just how it is. So, those are kind of like my thoughts for trying out. For band expectations, the band should fully be there. I understand that there are emergencies and stuff does happen. Just communicate that. If you have to reschedule, you have to reschedule. It happens. I've been there. But the band should fully be there. If something happens and this is your only day that you can do it and one person misses it, it happens, like I said, but the band should be there. I think this is something nice. If you're the band and you have someone coming to audition, play what you're going to play for them first. So they can kind of hear how everything sounds, how everything gets started up, and then, do a repetition with them. But I don't know. That's something nice to. I think I've gone to auditions where they've played for me first, and then they're like, "All right, you wanna? All right, let's try it with you," and you can kind of hear how it sounds. So, um, this is something that I don't think everyone has to do, but it's nice. Help out with gear. Help out moving gear. Like if someone's coming to audition, and um, they're coming to audition and they've got their, they got a fair bit of gear. Offer. You don't have to, but offer. Um, it's the nicest thing in the world, and I guarantee you that person's gonna remember that, because even if they don't get in, they maybe they played their heart out and it just doesn't work, but you were nice to them and helped them, and they're gonna remember that, and maybe they'll still like your music and they can still share. I think that's the nicest thing in the world when a band I'm auditioning for is like, hey, can I help you get that 412, or can I help you get that guitar? Do you need help carrying anything in? Especially if you've got stairs that you got to go through. My goodness, like, it's nice because you get stuff in quicker and you get set up quicker, so that's more time to jam, to audition and give your, present yourself, and it's more time for them to get to know you. So when you're having someone come audition, I don't care if you're playing in a barn. I've played in barns, I've played in garages, I've played in living rooms. Have your practice space clean. It doesn't have to be perfect, but have it relatively organized, relatively clean. You should be able to, because you would expect that person to come in relatively clean. You should have their area clean. Have a spot for them. You don't. It's nice to come in and be like, all right, so you've got your drummer here, your singer here, your guitar player here, your bass player here, and you want another guitar player, and you're going to put them here. Have that spot kind of designated for them and help them, be like, we're going to have you right here. Your equipment's going to sit kind of back so we can all kind of hear it or whatever. That's kind of cool. Make them feel welcome. Obviously, this is someone that you want to work with potentially, so someone that you're going to spend a lot of time with, especially if you guys do end up getting shows and you guys end up going on tour, you're going to spend a lot of time with each other. So make them feel welcome. You don't want to make them feel, isolated. The person should be sober. The band should be sober. You don't want to show up and the whole band's drunk, obviously. No, because then it's just not going to be a good time. So obviously, if you expect them to be sober, you should be sober. Like I said earlier, there's a time and place. If you want to set aside an hour or 2 hours, that I think is really nice to have that little time after practice to just talk, get to know each other, and maybe have a beer or two. There's nothing wrong with that. But be able to set aside that time. Don't be drunk during an audition, because you have this look, this presence of this person's coming in to see what, we want to see what they can do, and they might already know this band, they might already know this music. You want to be professional. Just like you were going out to play on stage because you don't want to get drunk before you go on stage or get any sort of messed up. You want to be sober because you would expect them to be sober for their audition. I mean, this is just kind of ideas that I expect to come into, and I feel like I should be expected to have done. I don't know a better way to say that, I guess. But these are like little tips, I mean, there's always an exception to every single rule out there, but we're out here to make music. We're out here to have fun, people. We should have fun with this. We should have a good time. But you should have expectations, because a person's time is important. You want to be able to communicate. You want to be able to be professional but have a good time. You want to have working gear. You want to be sober for your audition or rehearsal or whatever. You want to know your stuff. And you always want to be prepared in case something happens. These are all just like ideas that I've had trying out for bands, or just thinking about situations that I have kind of been in. Like I said, I'm not pointing any fingers to anybody who I've ever played with, because it's not. But these are just my thoughts on that. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you swinging by for this fun bonus video where I just kind of ramble for about 15-20 minutes. Jack Punkington signing out. Peace.